Hello, I'm Luke. Welcome to another episode of the Vision to Victory podcast, where we discuss practical ways to turn your dreams into reality. Today, I want to talk about perspective and permission. Over the last few weeks, we've been discussing cultivating a rhythm of peace and pursuit in our lives and making space for peace, things that bring us peace and are the antidote to anxiety and stress. And we've talked about pursuing worthwhile goals and dreams and causes, things that inspire us. And then last week, we talked about one of the most pervasive obstacles to pursuing these things, to cultivating this rhythm of peace and pursuit. And that was depression, which often stems from those other things, right? Stress, anxiety, busyness, no margin in our lives for things that we want to do, or even just to breathe. Sometimes it feels like, right? And I think that we all deal with depression on some level at some point. But today I want to talk about keeping things in perspective and then some permissions that we can give ourselves that can often stave off depression or can drive it away, or really just reframe how we experience life. So let's just talk about perspective. It can be tremendously helpful to just recognize that we are part of a bigger story. And on a personal level, whatever you might be experiencing right now is not the story. It's just a part of the story. Let me give a personal example. Several years ago, I was at a very low point in my life. I had gone through a divorce. My dad had just lost his battle with cancer. I had lost myself in alcohol. And, objectively, if I was just looking at my life at that moment, it looked very bleak. It was depressing. Not only was I depressed, but if I were to look at someone else's life in that place, it's like, oh man, that's rough. Like that's not in a great spot. I wasn't in a great spot, right? And in that moment, my feelings were telling me, all sorts of things. Like, not only does this suck, but I didn't really see the path forward, and I was just too stuck, just trying to numb my feelings of hurt or sadness or depression, whatever the case may be. But the fact is while that was a very difficult season, that's not my story. It's, at most a chapter, maybe a few pages of my story, and an important part of it at that. There was several things from that season that I had to learn from, and that I recognized that I needed to change and to grow and develop. And so it's just so important that if you're dealing with something difficult right now, or somebody that's dealing with something difficult, just if you can, which I recognize this can be difficult in the moment, but if you can zoom out and just realize, okay, whatever I'm dealing with is not the whole story. This isn't my whole story. There's more to your life than whatever you're dealing with at the moment, no matter how big or how insurmountable it seems. So that's on a personal level, just understanding that whatever season you're in, no matter if you can see the light at the end of the tunnel or not, it's not the whole story. And in fact, it likely will serve to further, the broader story of your life. And life is not without pain and suffering. Nobody is able to avoid that. But we can lean in and we can learn from those experiences, glean valuable wisdom and insight from those that can propel us forward. We don't have to stay stuck. And sometimes just having the perspective of realizing that even just our own personal life is so much bigger than whatever we're experiencing at any given moment. And then kind of the next level of perspective relating to, what we might be dealing with is that not only are we what we're experiencing is a part of our own bigger story, but we as people are part of a much larger story than just ourselves and our own lives. We're interwoven with each other as people. This is how we're wired. It's how we're created. And everything that we do has an impact on people other than us, even when we often don't realize it. We're part of a broader community of not only our family, our, where we live, if you are part of any type of organization or church or whatever it is, we all are part of a much bigger story, and our story is much more important than just our own personal experience. We are truly created to be connected and to contribute to the broader community. That could be as small as your family or as big as just the human race. Like, what are you contributing to the world here? And one of the hard lessons to learn, but very, very valuable lessons, is that oftentimes what we have to contribute to others stems from the hard seasons of our life. Sometimes it's just encouragement, that says, I've been where you're at. I know how you feel. You're not alone. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes it looks, like inspiring others to pursue things or to chase that dream. Whatever the case, we're part of just a much bigger story. And so again, if you're going through something challenging or somebody who's going through something difficult, it's not only the end of their story, but it likely will serve to help someone else, down the road. And it doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it does help to realize that, okay, whatever I'm in the middle of is temporary. Every single thing in life is temporary. There is no season that is permanent. And I would even take this kind of line of thinking one step further and say that not only is what we're dealing with currently part of our bigger story, and not only are we part of a larger, community and the people around us and the people in our sphere of influence, but there's also a generational component to this. We're one generation, or at any given time, to call it 3 generations of people. But what you do and how you spend your life will echo for generations to come, even though they may never know you. So your kids, right? They might not know you, but the things that you do today matter, and they echo. And again, from just a perspective standpoint, if you're dealing with something in this moment, not only is it temporary in the grand scheme of your own life, it's very, very temporary. Just a small little drop in the ocean when you think about the broader just human race, and again, from a generational perspective, your kids and their kids. And so whatever you're dealing with that's difficult, the way that you surmount that challenge will have a domino impact on your kids and their kids, and who knows who else that could be, that you could have an impact on, many of the people around you, simply because of your story and the way that you come out on the other side of what you're dealing with. So that's perspective. It's just getting outside of our feelings, which are generally geared towards very, in the moment, what am I feeling about this situation? And they're not necessarily reliable guides. I think, most of us are aware that if you just did what you felt all the time, your life would not be very productive. So it can be very useful to just get a little perspective, step outside of your feelings in the moment, and just realize that whatever you're experiencing is not permanent, and it will serve to be a part of a bigger story, both yours and those around you. So that's perspective. Now let's talk about some permissions we can give ourselves that just hopefully lighten the load of life a little bit. One of the biggest ones, I touched on this last week and I'll just hit it again, is just know that life is messy, and it's okay to be messy. Now, this isn't a don't take action and if there's something in your control to fix, then by all means do your part. But just realizing that life is messy is so helpful. It's been helpful for me because our natural inclination is to avoid the mess or to get out of the mess, or if something feels uncomfortable, we try to resolve that uncomfortable feeling as quickly as possible. And I am learning in my own life that there's just a much better way. And again, it's to lean in to whatever the messy situation is, or challenge or difficulty that you or someone might be dealing with. There's always something we can learn from that situation. And in fact, I believe that most of the reason that we might find ourselves in a messy situation is so that we can learn and we can grow and we can uh, develop in a way that A, hopefully we don't end up in a similar situation, but B, we can also help someone else that might go through something similar. So the permission is it's okay to be messy. If you're in a mess right now, you feel like there's a part of your life or all of it or whatever it is that feels messy and you don't see the end in sight. Welcome to the human race. Welcome to the human race. I promise you, every single person you meet is going through something. And most of us are living in, multiple seasons, depending on the area of our life. So meaning, maybe work is going great, but your relationship is not, or, vice versa, or any kind, maybe you're dealing with a health issue, whatever it is, everybody's going through something. So if you're dealing with something messy, just know you're not alone. You're really not. And it's okay. Take it from me. You have permission to be messy. So, number two, another permission we need to give ourselves is the permission to take risks. So, if you want to lead a fulfilling life, and this has become a little cliche, but it's true, is we have to be willing to take risks. One of the most common regrets of people when they reach old age is that they played it safe. They didn't chase that dream. They didn't chase that whatever it is. And as people, we make excuses, and they're really usually just that. And this isn't to diminish the fact that life can be busy. Look, we all have responsibilities, whether it's family, work, all of those things. But at the end of the day, we only get this one life. You might as well chase down something that inspires you and is an adventure. And you know what? If you fall on your face, you get up and you go chase something else. But playing it safe, in my opinion, is the biggest risk of all. Because if you play it safe, you never give yourself the opportunity to live the life that you want. And so I don't know what this means for you, but if there's something on your heart or on your mind to pursue, or even just a picture of something that you would like your life to look like, or a portion of your life to look like, find a way to take a step in the direction of that, whatever it is, no matter how scary it is. In fact, if it's scary, that's a good sign you might be on the right track, because any worthwhile goal or dream or anything should be a little intimidating, because it should challenge you, it should stretch you. So take risks. It's okay to be messy. It's definitely good to take risks, provided they're calculated, of course. I'm not advocating for just making stupid choices, but take good risks that are for things that inspire you. And then another one, we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks. It's worth repeating. You have the permission to say no. To say no. It was so helpful for me to understand that every time I'm saying yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. And vice versa. Anytime I'm saying no to something, it gives me the opportunity to say yes to something else. It's not just if someone asks you to do something. And maybe it's a worthwhile thing, whatever it is. But if you say yes to that, then maybe it means you won't have time with your kids or time to pursue this project that you've been working on that's really important to you. Just understand whichever you say, yes or no, you're always saying the opposite as well. So if I say yes to spending my time doing this, then I'm saying no to anything else that I could be doing in that same time. So permission to say no is so important. I would say now more than ever, because our lives are so filled with distractions and things vying for our attention, and to create space to not only just, you know, survive and kind of get through life, but to thrive, we have to say no more than we say yes. And so just permission to say no to, people, places, things that are just not in service of where you want your life to go. And it's worth saying that sometimes a no is just a not right now. Like, I've got this thing that I want to do, but I'm also taking care of this other thing that's very, very important to me. And so maybe it's a in the future, but not now. And that can be relationships and friends as well. There are people who serve us in one season of our lives, and the relationship just doesn't make sense for whatever reason at another season of our life. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That just makes you human, and that's life. So saying no to things that are not in service of where we want to go, or would keep us from doing things that would get us in the direction that we want to be headed. So permission to be messy, permission to take risks, permission to say no, permission to ask for help. This is a big one. And I think, so many of us struggle with this in our culture that puts so much emphasis on individuality and independence. But the reality is we all need help. We all need each other, and all of our stories are, again, interwoven together. And if you need help with something, whether it's something serious like dealing with a health issue or an addiction or that type of help, like, please, it is strength and wisdom to ask for help, not weakness. And in fact, I would say it's a much weaker decision to not ask for help, which usually we do out of fear or embarrassment. And by the way, I've been there. I can relate. So no judgment on you if you're feeling that way. But trust me, ask for help. Your future self will thank you. And finally, permission to pursue a dream, permission to believe that there's more, because there is. And I feel like so much of, particularly in, kind of middle class America, we prioritize comfort and we prioritize this kind of safety and security. And look, there is a human need for some level of security, but we are also wired for adventure, and we are wired to pursue things and to chase after things. It's in our DNA, and boredom will kill motivation and drive as fast as anything. And so please find something worth pursuing. It doesn't matter how small it might seem or how big it might be. Pursue something that inspires you. I promise you, even if it's just a hobby, something that you really enjoy doing, get good at it and spend time doing it. Just something to throw our energy at that requires some level of effort and challenges us in a good way and is fulfilling. It's so critical to the human experience and, again, to living a fulfilling life. So let's just kind of recap some of this. So perspective and permission. So we talked about perspective and just realizing that you're part of a bigger story, and whatever you're dealing with right now is part of a much larger story, both for you and for the community and the people around you. And while it might not make it easier, hopefully it helps to just recognize that not only is it temporary, but you can get a lot of good out of hard situations and hard seasons that will serve you very well and serve others in the future version of yourself and down the line. So take heart if you're dealing with something difficult or you feel like you're in a messy situation, you don't see the end. It's okay. There's more to the story. And I encourage you to lean in and just say, what can I learn from this? What can I glean from this? How can I grow? How can I develop? And then permissions, again, permission to be messy. If you're in a mess, you're not alone. You're part of the human race, and that's okay. And it won't last forever. Permission to take risks. Take good risks. What is a good risk? Something that inspires you, makes you feel alive, and also is, I'll give a disclaimer, is not in contradiction with any of your values, but take risks. Take risks. Playing it safe is the biggest risk of all, and it's not worth it. And then permission to say no. Again, if you want to add those inspiring things into your life, you have to create space. The only way to create space is to say no. And again, if you're saying no to something, just know you're saying yes to something else, and make that yes. If you say no to something, take that space and fill it with something good and inspiring. And then again, ask for help. Permission to ask for help. If you need help or you're dealing with something, honestly, if you just need to talk about the mess that you feel you're in, that by itself goes such a long way. But find somebody you can talk to who you trust. And if you need help with something, or you just need to, vent or just talk about what you're going through, then please do that. Don't keep it bottled up. That'll keep you stuck. That'll keep you stuck. So permission to ask for help. And then finally, permission to pursue a dream. Pursue a worthwhile endeavor, and worthwhile is just worthwhile to you. What does that mean for you? Find something to pursue. Look, we only get one life. Don't make excuses. Find a way to do it. If this is helpful for you, please like, subscribe, share. Love having you on here and new people. Thank you very much for listening.